Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon. So these three nurses die and they go to heaven. And they're up at the pearly gates, and St. Peter says to the first one, "So what did you do on earth, and why do you think you should be allowed into heaven?" He said, "Well, I was a nurse in an inner city hospital, and we worked to bring peace and healing to everyone, especially those poor, underprivileged children." And St. Peter said, "Very noble, you may enter." And in through the gates she went. To the second nurse, he said, "And what did you do?" And she said, "I was a nurse at a missionary hospital in the Amazon basin, and we treated across all the individuals in the tribe, reaching out to as many of them in all the various tribes, bringing peace and healing and a message of God's love." St. Peter said, "Wow, very impressive. You may enter." And in she went. And the third nurse, he said, "And what did you do?" And she was a bit hesitant and said, "I was a nurse at an HMO." And then he pondered for a moment, and then he said, "Okay, you may enter too." And she said, "Whew, for a second I thought you wouldn't let me in." And he said, "No, you can come in, but you can only stay for 3 days." Okay. All right. Woo, no, man. All right. So how many people here know that living with more balance, not overworking, and not always rushing is a good thing, but you don't always do balance very well in your own life? How many people know that exercising regularly is very healthy for you, a good thing to do, but you don't always get to the gym or exercise regularly? How many people know eating well is a very good and important thing, but your diet isn't always as consistent as you'd like it to be? You know, every single one of us wants to have improvement and success in our lives, whether it's in relationships, in our finances, our health, career, whatever it is, but we don't always do the things we need to do consistently to get the kind of results that we really want. Sometimes we don't take the actions. Sometimes we don't follow through. Sometimes we don't have a plan or the focus or the discipline that we know we should do to actually get the kind and attract and manifest the kind of life that we want. You know, last week we talked about Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, where he interviewed 500 very successful individuals to try and get an idea, what's the secret to success? And he came to realize that the secret is that human beings have access to what he called infinite intelligence, a wisdom and a genius and guidance and potential way beyond the human mind, way beyond, and an unlimited reservoir of this good is available to us. And do you know, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, as well as all his other books, including The Laws of Success, in a way to do this and to practice these principles to access this infinite intelligence, he always recommended being a part of a MasterMind group, to join with like-minded individuals who had an intention and desire to take their lives to another level and make a big difference, and to support each other in a way of accountability that would help us do these things that would not only bless our lives, but help other people fulfill their success and desires. The idea was to practice these principles, create a structure and a process, and to take advantage of the group dynamic, you know, to create even more good for everyone joining together. Remember when Jesus said, "Where two or more are gathered, there I am in the midst of them"? He's talking about multiplying and magnifying the group power of whether it's a vision or faith or certain spiritual principles. And when we come together, we really can magnify that and to create a greater good than we can do on our own, practicing these principles together. And so how do we do that? How do we do that? We immerse our mind in the mind of God. We tap into the MasterMind. You know, the Apostle Paul said, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And this system is about helping align our mind and prepare our mind to go deeper into the mind of God. And that will always bring great results. Now, I'm sure we've all heard of mastermind groups. It was mentioned by Napoleon Hill way back then, but there are all sorts of various forms of mastermind groups, people coming together with a positive intention to create greater things. The Unity minister Jack Boland, many years ago, took that idea of the mastermind process and joined the 12 steps of AA with a spiritual process to do the same thing, to tap into it. And he did it in a way that created a much more spiritually centered program. In fact, he actually created mastermind journals, and groups in the church would actually do this together and pray and set their intentions together. How many people are Jack Boland in these mastermind journals? I mean, some of you know it and how powerful it is. And the mastermind meditation that we do, the visualize, is a form of the very same 7 steps to prepare our mind to tap in to that infinite intelligence of God. So since we do that after each service, I thought it'd be good to explain the process and why it works and how we could work it in our lives, whether we just attend in between services or try and create our own group, because it is powerful and amazing stuff to learn how to tap into the power of the mastermind. Today I'll do the first 4 steps, and next week we'll finish with the 3 steps, and we'll actually do that thing that we do after service. We're actually right in service so you can fully experience and fully understand it. So the first step is to surrender. How many people here like things going your way and get a little upset when they don't go your way? Anybody? How many people have ever been overly aggressive, controlling, or forced something to happen in your life? Anybody ever? And how many people occasionally get in your own way? Anybody ever get in your own way? You know, the practice of spiritual surrender is, I believe, very misunderstood. It's often seen as being weak, passive, soft, giving up, settling, not really trying, surrendering, kind of throwing in the white flag. But to surrender to Spirit is one of the most powerful and important of all spiritual practices. Because to surrender is really an act of releasing the fear and anxiety and the judgments and the negative energies that we hold. It is about stopping fighting, struggling, and forcing, and just letting go. It is about letting go of attachments, letting go how we think life has to be for us to be happy. And it's really about just relaxing and opening up to Spirit. Opening up in a way that brings us, as what it says in Scripture, is the peace that surpasses all human understanding. It is not a giving up, it is a giving way. It's surrendering your small self to connect with your true self. It is awareness that there is a spirit and a wisdom and an intelligence in us that not only has a plan for us to prosper and succeed, but is always there, seeking to express more good. Patanjali, in Patanjali's yoga, he said that the key to attaining the state of yoga is surrender. It is surrendering your will to Spirit, surrendering to that higher intelligence and power. And he said true surrender is attained when you can say these words sincerely and mean it. And it is, God, I give you myself. I give you my body. I give you my mind. And I give you my heart to do with it as you see fit. It is the ultimate, God, thy will be done. Not my will, but thy will. And do you know the calming down of that brings such peace. And it opens us to allow God's Spirit to move through us. Surrender is not an easy thing. When life isn't going well, it's easy to get scared and caught up in negativity, it's in doubt, in fear. You know, the thing about surrender, it is a daily practice. Because we do get attached to how things should be, how we want things to be. We do hold on to things sometimes that aren't as healthy or beneficial to us. Everyone take a deep breath. And half voice say to yourself, I surrender. Together, I surrender. Take a deep cleansing breath again and just relax. And a little more, I surrender. Okay, even quieter voice, deep breath. Again, I surrender. Do you know the more we let go and the more we surrender, the more we actually open our lives to the peace and to the wisdom and to the guidance and the abundance of God. It is one of the most powerful things we can do is to surrender. The second thing in the process is to affirm that I believe. You know, it says in Scripture, all things are possible to those who believe. Jesus said, he who believes in me shall do the works that I do, and even greater things than these. Which really means, if you believe in the Spirit of God in you, the way he believed in the Spirit of God in him, that through that Spirit, we can do even greater things. Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you've received it. That believing thing's a powerful thing. But I just want to take you to the book of Mark, chapter 9, when Jesus, there's a man who has a son who is epileptic, and he was epileptic for a long time. And, he is not sure, and Jesus said, it's possible. And the man says to Jesus, he said, Lord, I believe, but please help my unbelief. And I bet every one of us has belief, but we also have some unbelief. Every one of us, I know 100% right now, believes that the sun's going to rise and shine tomorrow morning. We believe that. You believe right now that that chair you're sitting on is going to support your weight and not collapse. I think so. I think you believe that. We believe you take 2 aspirin, 20 minutes later, that pain's going on. We believe a lot of things. But when it comes to believing spiritual things that we can't see, sometimes our belief wavers. When things don't go as well, we get pulled into the appearance, and sometimes it's hard for us to believe. Belief is not a static thing. It is something that must be cultivated, it must be worked on, it must be nurtured. We have belief, and we keep affirming those, but we also need to work on our unbelief, because we have some of that too. And so the way that we do that, again, back to that scripture with Paul, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The way we work on our belief, one of them is to remind us of the truth that we sometimes forget. When it says that you are created in the image and likeness of God, that you are the temple of the living God, that you are the light of the world, that you can do all things through God who strengthens you, we need to remind ourselves of that truth, because sometimes we develop spiritual amnesia. That we think that we believe it for other people, we don't always believe it for ourselves. And so reminding the mind, renewing the mind, reaffirming these truths that we sometimes allow circumstance to make us forget is an important thing. Reminding ourselves, God loves me. God has a plan for me, even if I can't see it right now, to believe in that. And that belief has to be cultivated, has to be worked on. And the second way to work on our belief is the more we immerse our mind in God, the more we feel filled and centered with the love and the Spirit and the abundance of God, and our belief begins to increase just by the more time spending it with Spirit. I always found it interesting that Jesus prayed in the morning, midday, he prayed at noon, he prayed in the afternoon, he prayed in the evening, he prayed at night. He prayed a lot. And I always think, that's Jesus. Why do you need to pray so much? He's Jesus. He could have made a prayer, and he should have been able to write that bad boy for like a week at least, maybe 2. Why? And here's why. Because he was trying to show us that connection to Spirit. See, he would do work and then withdraw and meditate. He would do work, then withdraw and meditate. Because with our belief, the appearances of life can rock us a bit. And so that you keep tapping into it. You keep tapping into it. Because you build a consciousness of faith. You build a consciousness of belief. And the more we do it, the more even-keeled we are. And it helps us get through those moments. But we need to keep cultivating and practicing our faith and our belief. One of my favorite lines is when someone said, the only thing I don't like about life is that it's just so daily. And so, like brushing your teeth and doing everything, faith needs to be practiced daily, consistently and continually. Even when you are on the spiritual path, there are times, anybody ever in your life along your spiritual path, you felt like you'd lost your faith, you didn't feel connected while you pray? Anybody? Okay, about 6. Fantastic. And I used to think when I first got into spirituality, if I just hit this level of consistent meditation, I could put it in spiritual cruise control and just ride that out for a long time. That's not how it works. A part of this evolutionary process is that sometimes, even along our path and things we go, well, sometimes we're going to hit something that's going to test our faith. That's going to force us to go deeper even when we don't want to go deeper. And it is not an easy process, but we need to continually practice it. I've mentioned several times, one of the articles that I read that really had a huge impact on me was an article by Mother Teresa, where many years into her ministry, she wondered and wondered what her belief was. It happens, and it is a part of the process, and we need to continually work on what we believe, keep affirming it by immersing your mind in the mind of God, but also work on our unbelief. And to have some unbelief is not anything wrong with us. It's just a part of our process that we need to keep moving and working through. Lord, I believe. Please help my unbelief. And the more we work on it, the more we can move through things, get through things, and attract and create new things. Everyone take a deep breath. Half voice, say, I believe. Together, I. Another deep breath, even a softer voice with more conviction. I believe. Deep breath one more time. And even quieter with conviction. I believe. I surrender. I believe. And the next one is I forgive. Anybody ever had someone betray you or really mistreat you, and you held a grudge, or you were angry or resented or blamed them, and you didn't want to forgive them? Anybody? Okay. Or we say things like, I will never forgive that so-and-so for what he did or said, or I'll forgive them, but first let me get even, or some kind of thing like that. I know nobody here says it, but I'm just saying. And so here's the thing. One of the worst ways to store energy is holding on to resentment. You know why? Because it keeps it alive. And we keep reliving the pain. The thing happened, and we keep reliving it and by resenting and being hateful and being unwilling to forgive. We almost guard that pain like it's sacred instead of being willing to release it. We would rather deny and pretend and bury those feelings, even though they will undermine and sabotage our success and our peace and joy, rather than being willing to forgive. There's this couple, and the husband did something not so brilliant, and he apologized to the wife, and the wife said, honey, I forgive you, because I always believe you forgive and forget. And yet every couple of months she would tell him, you remember the thing you did? And I forgave and forgot. And she did that so many times. The husband said, honey, I'm thinking maybe you don't believe in forgive and forget. And she says, no, I believe in forgive and forget. I just don't want you to forget that I forgive and forgot. The word forgive actually means to loosen, to untie, and to release ourselves from the pain of the past. See, surrender is about letting go of the resistance, letting go of the anxiety and fear. Forgiveness is different at even a higher level because it's about the toxic emotions, and the feelings that we hold and harbor, which are even more intense and I would say more debilitating. You don't need to know how to forgive. You just need to be willing. You just need to have a desire to be liberated and freed from that pain, from that story, from that hurt. And so who do you need to forgive? And what are you holding on to from the past that you know is not serving you well and it's time to let go? I saw a fortune cookie recently, and it said, cleaning up the past clears up the future. The more we're able to forgive and release that, we actually open a wider space and we unblock and unclog ourselves to actually feel more wisdom and inspiration, to allow more light to flow through us. Deep breath, everyone. Half voice again. I forgive. Again, one more deep breath. Together, I forgive. And the fourth one in the process of aligning our mind with the mind of God to tap in to the infinite intelligence is to ask. I read an article several years ago, and it said the reason that most people don't get what they want is, I'll tell you because I read it. I was waiting for it. Is because they don't know what they want. It sounds ridiculous. Many of us could ramble off a list of what we don't want very quickly, what we don't like, what we can't stand. But we can't always say what it is that we want. Common answers for, hey, what do you want? Is, I don't know. Another one is, I'm not sure. And a surprising but true one is, I've never really thought about it. There are things in our lives, you say right now, when it comes to your whatever, what do you want? And we haven't taken time to think about what it is that we desire. When it says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be opened unto you, asking, seeking, and knocking is a spiritual directive for every one of us. In fact, there are a number of powerful things and important things about asking. Number one, it is our responsibility to ask. If it says that we are created in the image and likeness of God and God's a creator, that means we're creators. And a part of our work here on this planet is to create more light, to create more love, to create more goodness, and to bring that forth into the world, not just to bless us, but to bless all people. It is your responsibility to ask and to seek and to knock, a spiritual responsibility. Second thing about asking is it brings clarity. It forces us to choose, to decide, and to claim what it is that we want. Another one is asking shapes us and shapes what our lives will look like. We're the ones that get to shape. We participate. Another thing about asking, it creates a channel for creative energies to flow. Just by asking, you open up channels and possibilities. And then the final one is asking actually opens up new possibilities for ourselves. And so it's important to ask. It's important to have a vision. It's important to have intentions and goals. Where it says where there is no vision, the people perish. You know what perishes? Our enthusiasm perishes when we don't have goals. Our energy and our joy, our motivation. When we don't have a vision, a goal, something that we are seeking, something we're asking for, a door that we want opened, that it really withers, our creative powers, our confidence. So what do you want to create? It is your responsibility to create. So what do you want to create? What do you want to create for yourself? What do you want to create in your relationships? What do you want to create in your finances? What do you want to create at your job? What difference do you want to make? What's the kind of person you want to be? What qualities would you like to express and embody more that someone would say, wow, that person is really... Is it playfulness? Is it joy? Is it kindness? Is it generosity? There are all kinds of things. And we can have it by being willing to ask. Something I want you to notice, two of the three things before getting to ask are actually about letting go. Surrendering and forgiving. Isn't that amazing? Michael Beckwith says 100% of spiritual growth is about learning how to let go. Because we already came whole, complete, lacking nothing. We're already amazing spiritual beings. We're already energies of light and love and spiritual power. It says in Timothy, God hasn't given you a spirit of fear and timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and self-discipline. That's the truth of who we are. It's already there. The question is, can we let go of the stuff that we keep holding on to that's weighing us down from knowing and feeling that truth and expressing and shining it into the world? We have the power to tap in to that creative power, and we have the power to join together and do it in amazing and wonderful ways. Next week, I'll talk about the next three, but this week, what I want you to work on is to surrender. I surrender. About really letting go at depth. I want you to work on your belief and your unbelief, to remind your mind and then immerse your mind in the mind of God, and your belief that things are possible and that you are worthy will increase. And then forgive. What person, what story, what thing from the past is it time to let go And finally, ask. What do you want to create? What do you want to attract? What do you want to have? We can tap in to a brilliant intelligence, create all kinds of possibilities and good for our lives. If we do the things we do, we will truly discover and use the power of the mastermind. God bless you all.